a book about the history of the contractual relations between the East India Company and the Sultanate of Kedah that led to the formation and the acquisition of Penang, I think people will choose the former. That is a reflection of the times we live in. We don't make history, we simply do. With the benefit of hindsight, history decides whether what we do is important or not. You know, people always say, make history. That phrase literally does not make any sense. One doesn't make history. Yeah, you make a mess, you make babies, but you don't make history. You do. What we do now, time will decide whether it's of historical importance or not. You know, many parties were formed in the 30s and 40s. Some of them were just forgotten. Some became historical. All these variable factors come in later on that more or less determine whether things become important or not. So sadly, this is an accurate snapshot of where we are today. And I think this is where the lament of scholars, especially historians, come in. Because historians just study nothing but bad news. And it's just going through a catalogue of human disasters and human mistakes. But here also, unfortunately, lies the weakness of history. History can instruct, but it cannot compel. And it doesn't matter how many times people read about disasters and mistakes made in the past, it doesn't prevent that mistake from being made today. Today, as our present generation of Malaysians and Southeast Asians worry about the influx of foreign capital, massive scale of foreign capital penetration in sectors like banking, for example, across Southeast Asia, including, and also material investment, infrastructure projects being given wholesale to foreign multinationals. Professor Khoo will know, we've seen this before in the region during the age of the colonial companies. Today, Southeast Asia is besieged by a whole army of Francis Lights and Stanford Raffles. Doesn't matter how many times you read the history books, it doesn't prevent you from making the same mistake again. So I think that is the lament. You talk about VNEP. We can objectively look at what it has produced. It has also produced this. It has produced the society that we see today. It's not just the unequal power relations that were the result of the use of state policies, economic policies to benefit certain political elites. It's also created this society, this karaoke-loving society, this toil movie-loving society. This is the byproduct of rapid development, rapid urbanization in the context of societies that were still, I think, semi-feudal in the 50s. And which has not been accompanied by precisely the sort of development of the sort of critical thinking that Professor Khoo is talking about. Sadly, this is the pattern of post-colonial development across most of Asia and Africa. Build the airport, build the supermarket, build the mall, build the cinema, but forget the textbooks, because we build that first, the intellectuals will come later. Actually, they never come. That's the problem. They never come. They never come. And in this respect, there's nothing really unique about Malaysia either. Our problems are not unique to us. These are problems that we share across the region in Southeast Asia today.
Dr. Farish, I just want to push a point that I think was latent in your explanation, particularly on the effects of race relations that the NEP produced. Because what happened as a result was a stronger claim to the state, because the state was seen as this paternal guardian of the Malays, supplying it with capital, supplying it with social security, so on and so forth. There's a greater attachment that the Malays have towards the state that perhaps we had not seen before in material terms. Right? So has the NEP worsened relations across races? I'll give each of you a chance to respond.
Well, I wouldn't say that it has. To say that the policy was set out to worsen relations, I think would be putting the cart before the horse. Again, and here I agree with Professor Khoo. When we look at the state of Malaysian society as a whole, in the pre-colonial, colonial, post-colonial period, remember that one of the legacies of colonialism was to leave behind these vertical cleavages, whereby with the institution of the early nation state, you already had divided societies that were physically, geographically divided. That's why we have the Chinatowns and the Little Indias and the Kampung Melayu, part and parcel of the whole urban landscape of keeping communities apart. But apart from keeping these communities apart, there were also, these are vertical structures of power, whereby communities no longer feel that you can appeal to other representatives outside your community, you have to appeal via your community. So if you are of community A, you go through leader A. If you're community B, you go through leader B. If you're community C, you go through leader C. And all of this creates these parallel vertical divisions in society. And I think that has simply been, entrenched even further by the way in which the state works. But this is always the inherent danger of all states. The state as a tool can always be easily used as a patronage machine. We've seen it even in the case of the Soviet republics, where the cleavages may not have been racial or ethnic, but it could have been regional or what have you. But the state is always in a position because it disperses funds, it disperses largesse. The problem is, have we, in post-colonial Southeast Asia, developed this understanding of what citizenship means, and that it means a impersonal contractual relationship with the state, and not my community leader, my religious leader, my linguistic community leader, or what have you. I think this has not happened in many parts of Southeast Asia. So again, unfortunately, it's a byproduct of the process that you're talking about, but it's also not unique to us. We see this in the context of many plural